Shalom, beloved family. It's your girl Sophia Spiritual Light, and we're here for a message, which is like a lesson, sort of, and a warning. Um, I listened to the live stream by Sister Pat, and then I followed that up by watching the live stream of Brother Rich and Blue Pill, and we are we need to be very, very cautious about our emotions, especially the sisters, especially the daughters of Zion. Um, there is an huge set of things going on, and we're being set up to either be put back onto the zodiac and continue with that cycle, or to be set apart. And I implore the daughters of Zion to um, choose the path of being set apart. And I just want to outline what I see as the process for that um, at this point. So, from what I observe, our emotions as the daughters of Zion are amplifying the chaos on this planet. Meaning there's going to be chaos on this planet anyway, but the more chaotic we are, the more chaotic the planet is. And so if we are able to maintain peace and order amongst ourselves, yes, the planet will experience chaos, but it won't experience this level of chaos that it's experiencing right now because of how emotional and irrational we are. And which is, it is what it is. Is we can't feed into the chaos that they're trying to throw at us, because what it is really, you know, especially the ones who did the fast, and even we did the fast for all the daughters. So for the ones who did the fast, especially, we have to be very, very careful not to um not to go overboard, because this is what happened to us before. We went overboard because these cycles are always come around, right? And so when we were when we were in charge and this cycle came around, we went overboard. We went overboard and insisted on overemphasis on the mother, and not that she doesn't deserve emphasis, but we insisted on overemphasis, which in turn resulted in a proportionate overemphasis on the father. And just due to the nature of how long this emphasis on the father only has been, that tells me that we had this same sort of emphasis on the mother with this same sort of intensity for at least the same amount of time. So if it's been 2,000 years of this, um, you know, little baby in the manger, Yahweh Shai, whatever stuff, then that tells me we had 2,000 years of, you know, only the mother, forget the men. The men are irrelevant. Let us just rule this thing with an iron fist. You know what I mean? We did the same thing. And so here we come, around to this cycle again, and we have an opportunity to do it the right way this time, to not get caught up in the emotion of it all, um, but instead to um, just to be different moving forward. So it say this as having posted an extremely emotional video yesterday, and not that I had time to think about it and I recant my position, because I don't. However, I do see that there is going to be a need for balance moving forward. So if we know, okay, so let me explain what I mean by that. If we know that these people, whomever they be, I don't know who they are. Let me just say that I really don't know who they are. I just know that's what the message I got. Whomever these people may be, if they are currently holding access to the temple and using whatever methods they are to harness our our current um, prayer life, fasting life, and emotional life, which is what they're doing. And we don't know how they're doing it. So I'm not professing to know that I know how they're doing it. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't. I'm going to just put that out there. I don't know who's doing it. I don't know how they're doing it. I know why they're doing it, and I know what the goal is. And so from that point, I usually try to work backwards, and things will be revealed. But so I'm just giving you all my thought process about that. So this is what I mean by that. And this is why all this stuff about St. Nicholas came up so that we could make the connection, but we missed the drop as usual. Because again, we're the tiny toons down here, and our overselves are trying to give us the information in the best way that they can. But again, we're so emotional about not celebrating holidays, or we're so emotional about, court verdicts or politics or everything else, that we're missing the messages from our overselves and from the Most High and from the Mother. We're not able to put them together in real time. So I hope that this helps with that, for our people. So when the information came out about Saint Nicholas, Kirimo said that the reason why Saint Nicholas was made a saint is because he sold he gave gave or donated his money to some sisters so that they wouldn't be sold into slavery. And I was unable to make the connection to us, our people, especially the daughters of Zion at that time, but now I understand it. The reason why we've been sold into slavery right now is because we had our dowry or our inheritance stolen. And the reason why we had our inheritance stolen is because we went overboard on telling people only worship the mother, and then because there has to be a swing back. That's a universal law, you know. Um, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. One of Newton's laws, same thing. Um, there had to be a swing back. And so the swing back on that account is that even though the father clearly favors the daughters of Zion, remember in that scripture, he said, the daughters of Zion, your tinkling things won't work. Your protections and stuff won't work because again, we had our inheritance taken. But it wasn't taken away from us. It was put away from us, which is not necessarily the same thing. Taken away means that someone could take it and use it for themselves. It wasn't taken, it was put away so that we couldn't use it. And then we had to learn the lesson of being sold into slavery for the lack of our dowry. However, you know how Esau and the Gentiles and the heathens are. They go overboard. As we go overboard, humanity goes overboard. That's what human nature is to go overboard. And so we do not want to make that mistake moving forward. So we do not want to go overboard in either direction. We want to walk the fine line of worshiping the mother and the father. We want to walk the fine line of understanding the position of the mother and the father. We don't want to do one too heavy or the other too heavy. We want to walk the fine line. Now, for a very long time, we weren't able to do anything with the father, and so we're trying to now bring that back into balance. So, my message is to remind people as we bring that back into balance, that we don't go overboard and saying it's only the mother. It may have always been the mother, that is the case, but we don't want to go overboard and saying it's the only the mother. And the reason why that is because with that type of information and that type of talk, these Gentiles and these heathens will just go into hiding for another 2,000 years because they know what we're going to do. We're going to go overboard and make everybody worship the mother and have everybody with these statues and these carvings and this everything that's only the mother, and we're going to forget the father again because that's what we did the last time, and they're going to be able to just wait us out because they know that they're eternal because they're not from this planet. We're the ones who don't know that we're eternal. They'll come back in multiple incarnation cycles, even if it's just a few of them, and because there's so many clones or whatever else floating around this planet. The ones who are really trying to run this program the way that they are, they'll just come back you know, multiple incarnation cycles into their same little bloodline or whatever. And then when it's time for the pendulum to swing backwards the other way because we went overboard, then they're just going to come in and take over again. And they'll be like, okay, well, y'all will have this round. And the whole thing about that is that keeps us on the zodiac, because then we're bound by the rules of the zodiac. If we keep swinging, if we keep swinging like the pendulum from one extreme to the other, then we're bound by the rules of the zodiac. That's the reason why, you know, the pendulums work for us, because we are able to swing to both ends. And that also goes back to, it's not about not being able to swing to both ends, but it's it's just so weird to explain. But we're supposed to be the heart. When the heart pumps, it goes from a overinflated state to a collapsed state. That's what the pumping of the heart is. It if you see my chestahedron shape, it blows out as the blood fills in, it blows out, and then as the blood pumps out, it contracts in. And that's what heart angina, whatever that stuff is. I can't remember the proper terms. I studied this so long ago, but the heart fluctuates, and the strength is in the ability to fluctuate between the inflated position and the deflated position. And that's what we have to do. We have to be the heartbeat. We have to be able to fill ourselves with the mother, and then empty ourselves to the father, and to the will of what he wants to be done. And by that fluctuating positions, um, we naturally would also fluctuate in our minds, meaning it's kind of like a mental thing too. If you are physically fluctuating between absorbing in all of the electromagnetic fluids, then the opposite of that is that you have to put it out. There's no, okay, you got to save it up, you put it in a bank, you this and that. No, you can't do that. You have to absorb, and that's why they want, the Bardon wants people to build it up from the inside, because you're depleting yourself. But if you pull it in from the outside and then push it back out, you're not taking it in yourself as some sort of store. You become stronger. Why? Because you become more able to handle more from the outside, and you also have that ability of pouring more into the universe. You're becoming the actual heartbeat. This planet has a heart in it, and it's crystallized at this point because the daughters of Zion have not awakened to our ability for flexibility. We have flexibility. We're not stuck in the rigidness of the zodiac, meaning the zodiac, no matter which way you flip it, it goes in the same order. It has the same position. But if you're not bound by the zodiac, you can go from, you know, Leo to Aquarius, bounce back to Sagittarius, jump forward to Taurus. You're just not bound to the rules. You still have the same playboard, meaning the board is still the same, but you're not bound by the rules of having to go step by step. You can bounce around to wherever you're needed. So we have to make sure that we don't get so focused on, the mother and into our IRA state, that we don't understand that we also need the God of men, MIN. And Blue Pill talked about this in somebody asked a question, and they talked about this little, just very briefly. And I think that that's kind of something that could easily go over somebody's head. So I'm going to go over to what I found on Pinterest and let y'all see that. So, um, let me see. I'll read most of it. Men, the god of Egypt. Discover the legends and myths of religious beliefs surrounding Men, the Egyptian god of fertility and sexual procreativity or reproduction. Rain, the desert, miners, and travelers. He's also considered a god of regeneration, which is believed to symbolize the forceful renewal of sovereignty of the pharaoh. Men was honored in coronation rites of new pharaohs to ensure their sexual vigor and the production of a male heir. Men was depicted as a human male with one arm, one leg, and one large erect penis. He carried a flail and wore a double plumed crown. Additionally, interesting facts and information about the. Okay, there's more facts. Okay, so he was the god of fertility. So let's look at his name. Men alternative names is Mina. Oh, wait a minute, y'all. What the parable of the Minas? Okay, Menu, Menu, and Amsu. Role and function. The roles and function of God men included duties associated with fertility, virility, rain, and the desert and travelers. Symbols are lettuce, white bull, the flail, and the ankh. Centers of worship Coptos and Achamen. Titles: Lofty of the Two Feathers, Lord of Foreign Lands, Lord of Foreign Lands, Lord of Foreign Lands, Maker of God and Men. He whose arm is raised in the east, he whose arm is raised in the east, and great of love. The cohort is Katesh, the goddess of love and femininity, and there's the hieroglyphics. Let me read y'all the role. This is what I was like. Okay, we're getting ready to fall right into the trap. So the role and duties of men were as god of male sexuality and procreativity or reproduction. God men was honored in the coronation rites of the pharaohs to ensure the sexual vigor and production of male heir. God of fertility, god of vegetation, crops and harvests, rainmaker, god of the eastern desert, god of stone. Men was venerated as the god of the miners in the area around the river called the Wahadi Hamad that supplied prized green sandstone called the Beacon stone used for bowls, pallets, statues, and sarcophagi stone for the sarcophagus, protector of mining expeditions, patron of roads, journeys, and the desert of travelers. And here are the symbols. White bull symbolizing virility and strength. So let's pause right there. Bulls have horns, okay? So it's not just that the goddess was the bull, or the mother was the bull. There was a male bull too, or the mother was not the well, the female was the so the okay. Wait, let me rephrase this. So the depiction of the mother or the cow with the horns was the combination of the mother cow with the bull horns. It was a combination. It wasn't that the women had horns, it was that the women were combined with the horns, with the male part. It was they called it transhumanism, but I would say that it was the mating, the the yin and the yang, like imagine having a cow without having a bull, you know what I mean? That type of understanding. Men's sacred lettuce, romaine or cos lettuce, black skin color, because um, we already know what that means. This was a black man. Egyptians called the river Nile Ar, or meaning black, an allusion to the color which alluvial deposits carried by. No, it wasn't. The black lands were farming areas on the banks of the Nile producing crops such as cereals, wheat, and barley. Men was associated with the desert and travelers. The Nubians were depicted in ancient Egypt art with black colored skin. The Ankh representing eternal life, the cypress tree under which men were said to have been worshipped, the double plumed crown, weapons of ancient Egypt. And here's just some more um, stuff about this. So I just wanted to point out, as you can see, this is the picture. He had a double plumed crown and big giant thing hanging around. All right, y'all didn't see all the other pictures I had to see. So if the women, the daughters of Zion, are the eye of Ra, then we also have to remember that there is a God of men out there for us, which is why my message yesterday, I said I do have respect for the sons of man, which I do, which is why I'm, giving them an opportunity to make it right. We have to also remember we got to be right about it too. When the information does come up, we can't hold this against them for withholding it from us. We have to, I wouldn't say forgiveness is the proper term per se, but we have to understand that, you know, as a strategic play, the strategic play is if we can keep the women, they maybe some of them remember what happened when we were in charge last time, and since we don't have any of those records, we don't know what that was like, and they could be remembering, through their bloodline, that when we were in charge, there was not there wasn't as much peace as they it wasn't as good as they say it was, because again, the mother doesn't operate without the authority of the father. People keep asking, a lot of women think the mother can do things that that the father will disapprove of. That's not how it works. That's not how a relationship works. It's both halves. It's the mother gets the authority from the father and to carry out the work, but nothing happens without the authority of the father. So, you can't just go around your daddy and say, "Oh, I'm gonna go to my mama and see what my mama say." No, we can't do that. And the reason why I say that that's what they're trying to trap us into, is that if you look at that verdict or whatever, and Blue Pill mentioned this. He said, "Well, look at what happened. On Friday we had this huge separation between the men and the women, because the women agreed with Meg and the men agreed with Tory and this and that, and it was just this huge division. So they're setting, and it was the new moon. So really, they were trying to set the intention of us going into this new season with this same old thing. You know what I mean? Like with this same old male versus female, fighting each other. So again, if we are the gods, and like they mentioned in the live stream, if they are the stars and the stars are fighting amongst themselves, as long as we are bound to the zodiac, we're bound to the influence of the stars fighting. So, in order to not be bound to the zodiac, we have to look at that situation and say, if the stars are fighting, that's good for them. We're going to continue forward in our balance. And so this whole idea of trying to, pit us one against the other and bring all this stuff out right now is so that we will go into this this new year, because they know what's coming this year. We will go into this new year and they will say, "See, they're still not ready. They're still doing this, they're still doing that. You have to let us rule for, another 70 years, because look at what they're doing. They're not ready." They're not ready, and I'm always saying we're not ready, but I'm actually I'm going to rephrase that and say we are ready. If the battle is us maintaining our ability to be objective as information is being revealed, and it's not some we're not ready because we're still doing this and doing that, then I would say that we are ready, because we are clearly able to navigate these situations without getting too emotional to one side or another. As long as or if you do get emotional, you can come back down. Meaning, I've seen people get emotional and stuff, and then I've seen them come back down. We're not getting emotional and carrying this stuff on for weeks and months and years. After I, got my message out so that people could see that we ain't playing over here, I could come back down and say, not that I disagree or disavow anything I've said, because I agree and avow everything that I've said. But on the flip end of that, I'm not going to take out my anger, um, my righteous anger, um, on someone who doesn't deserve it. Because, like I said, I don't know who's doing this to us. I don't know why they're doing it, how they're doing it exactly. I know what the result is. Um, and therefore, because I know the result, I can work backwards from there, like I just said. But I'm not going to take it out on every, man. I'm not going to take it out on every woman. I'm not going to take it out on every member of a secret society. I'm not going to take it out on every high operating government official. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is evaluate each. I'm going to wait for more information to come in. I'm going to ask for more information. I'm going to get authorization. Back to the beginning, I'm going to get authorization to conduct the inquiry. amongst the sistren. We're going to evaluate what is going on. And we do see that the men are quite incapable of this process at this time because they're still dealing with some of their stuff. So, in lieu of them, we're still going to, like I said, have respect for what would be in their best interest too. Dis, we're not going to not consider what they're doing, um, or whatever. We're just going to look at it in a from a reasonable perspective. And reasonable, what is reasonable, is to say that I don't know who is doing this to us. I know why they're doing it. They're doing it because um, number one, like I said, we went overboard when it was our turn to rule as women. We went overboard, and so this is the natural swing back from that. However, now again, as usual, they've gone too far. And I'll tell you why they went too far, and it had to swing back. They went too far. In a minute, I want to get that. So they went too far, so it had to swing back. And so now you had your time of being ruled by the men. And they had their opportunity. Again, like I said in my video, this could have been over a long time ago if the men were able to lead us into worshiping the mother and the father. They couldn't do it. They were too afraid of relinquishing their own power to tell us that we had to worship the mother and the father. They were too afraid of relinquishing their own power. So now that it's swinging back in our direction to give us another go around on this, we have to say, okay, well, we're going to worship the mother and the father. We're not just worshiping the mother. We're not just worshiping the father. And I now believe that it does not go without saying. We do have to say both, because if we don't say both, it could be interpreted as someone who is listening, and when it gets passed down from generation to generation, that we weren't worshiping both. That's just like and that's what they did in the Bible. They misconstrued everything. They threw stuff all over the place. They put in lots of word salad. They confused the Holy Ghost with the Holy Spirit, with the this and the that, so that you couldn't get a handle on what was being said or what was being talked about or any of that. And so, since I'm evaluating now. And another thing that we have to be able to do, and I wish that our sisters would really get on board with that, is evaluate new information and come to new conclusions. You know, we cannot be set in stone. That is one of our big problems. Black women will say, look, I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing. I'm not doing nothing else ever. We cannot do that. Moving forward into the next age, being people who cannot take in new information and reevaluate our positions is going to get you stuck on the wheel. And I don't want the daughters of Zion to be stuck on the wheel and unable to access their inheritance, because I'm getting mine. I'm getting mine. I don't know about nobody else. I don't care about nobody else except to say, if you want to have access to the your dowry so that you can be married spiritually, then you cannot hold on to this whole thing of, once I make up my mind is made. My mind is never made up, because there's always new information, and I'm going to make up my mind. I'm going to maintain the same values, but my values are very, very basic. Love the Lord, your God, with all your mind, body, and strength and soul, and love your brother as yourself. Very, very basic. Everything else is up for interpretation because I don't know my history entirely. They don't give it to us. Everything has been wiped from our memories due to our slavery, our spiritual slavery, due to the fact that we lost our inheritance, or we lost our dowry, and we were sold into slavery. We sold ourselves into slavery because we lost our dowry, and we lost our dowry because we went overboard. And so, as a result, the mother is giving us back our dowry, our magic, just a little bit here and a little bit there, to see how we're going to do with it. And we want to pass the test. Part of the test is, as things get revealed, you get upset about it, and you don't pretend like you're not upset, and you don't pretend like what they did is wrong. You don't do that, but you come back down and you say, okay, well, we're going to be reasonable about it. It's not negotiating with terrorists, it's being reasonable about your response. And my response is not, okay, I'm never doing this, I'm never doing that, none of that stuff again. My response is, you know, put the responsibility on the one that the responsibility belongs to, and for everyone else, evaluate how they are moving forward. So if I see, again, if I see people that are not engaged in, acknowledging the mother the same way that they acknowledge the father, then I'm going to know that they are stuck on the zodiac, and I do not intend. Like I said, this is my last time on the zodiac. I don't know about everybody else. Some of y'all want to come back. You're in a hurry to leave this place only to have to come back because you're not dealing with getting off the zodiac. My job, my responsibility is to get off the zodiac. I'm doing that for myself, you know, and I'm going to teach my children also how to get off the zodiac. If you wish to stay on the zodiac, that is up to you. That is your choice. That is your free will. You're going to be bound by the rules of the zodiac if you choose to stay on the zodiac. I do not want to be bound by those rules. I do not want to be bound by any of that stuff. What I want to do is what I came here to do, and the top priority of that is to get off of the zodiac. And so, if you think that you're going to be able to go into multiple densities, multiple planets, and all that stuff, and be off the zodiac, that's not going to happen for you. You're still going to be bound by the zodiac, because even if you go to another planet, even if you get off this planet and you're able to go to another planet because you ascended, that does not necessarily take you off the zodiac. Does not make you a creator god. As a matter of fact, that just puts you in a different on a different planet with the same problems, with the same lessons to be learned, because you weren't unable to manage your emotions. So you asked to get off of here, your wishes is my command. You'll be off this planet, but you're going to go to another planet where you're going to have to learn the same lessons and be bound by the same rules of the zodiac, except you just won't be on this planet. And if you think other planets are necessarily better than this planet, how do you know that? How do you know that? Everybody's trying to get here. So to me, this is you probably ended up with the best opportunity to learn the most lessons so that you can get out of this into the next stage. I mean, this is probably the last test. When you come to Earth, you've already done all the other stuff. Now you're coming to Earth to do your final test, and you've already been here a few cycles, and you kind of got stuck here due to the nature of Earth, and it is all encompassing. So you got stuck here, but you have the opportunity to leave out of this cycle and go into a different cycle and go into the creator, the role for the creators. Otherwise, you're not going to get out of here. You're not going to be able to, you know you're not going to have rest because you have lessons to learn. And the biggest lesson is to be able to go from an expanded state to a contracted state. And a heart may look like it's constantly in a expanded state because of how it beats, but the beating is it does it so fast you can't see it. But if you were to slow it down, you would see all the blood pull out of the heart and go into the vortex where it exits. You would see it, but you can't see it because it does it so fast. So if you slow that's why it's the whole idea of learning the language of the breath is, another thing that will help with that. So if you want to be able to get out of this, off of this zodiac, you need to be able to go from extreme to extreme, and it needs to be so fast that it doesn't affect you moving forward. Otherwise, if it starts to be, you keep going back to that same thing, that same thing, that same thing, it's going to affect you moving forward. You're not going to be able to accomplish anything. Or, like I said, you're going to continue to be bound by the zodiac, And so what we want to do is move past that. We don't want to be stuck on this thing. And the two-thirds and whatever, they're going to be stuck on this, they're going to be stuck on this. But me, I would much rather, like the whole thing with with Meg and Tori and all of that, I've always called Meg the boy horse because that's what it is. I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care how to describe it. That's a boy horse. And so if you are proclaiming yourself to be a boy horse and who got shot in the foot and the whole thing, like, first of all, if you're proclaiming yourself to be as tough as a boy, then you shouldn't be crying about getting shot. Man, there was a whole song on Boondocks where the guy was like, "I got shot," and everyone was like, "I got shot. I got shot for real. No, I got shot. Like, I mean, you got shot, okay? If you're proclaiming to be as strong as a man, you're supposed to just walk that off. Keep going and not be complaining and stuff about that. That's how you choose to do it. I don't choose to be like that. I choose to operate from a feminine perspective of if I get hurt, somebody's gonna have to come in and take care of me and rescue me, which is why you don't want to forget for every eye of Ra, there's gotta be a god of men. Don't think that you get to be the goddess without there being a god nearby, because that whole thing is the cow with the bull horns is the combination. It's the marriage of the mother and the father. It's not the mother being the mother and the father. It's the union of the mother and the father. That's what it is. When you use the horn, you know, as the daughters of Zion, you're combining the mother and the father elements to work for you. You're combining with the elements that you don't have. And so we have to remember that that's we have to find balance. The purpose um of ourselves is to be able to find balance. And that's what the Ark of the Covenant is. It's the balance between the spirit that you can't see that dwells within the box that you can. I mean, that's what it is. It's the Ark of the Covenant is the combination of the mother and the father. And you have to be able to get into that mode of being the indwelling of the Shekinah, um, being the indwelling of the spirit, being the physical indwelling of the spirit. That's what the Ark of the Covenant is, the physical indwelling of the spirit. And that takes both parts. It takes the physical body and the spiritual body. And so you don't want to get so caught up on one side or the other that you don't remember that there's a balance. Because we do have a lot of work that we have to do, and we do have people we need to save, and innocent lives to protect. Absolutely. All of those things are true. All of those things are true. But what we don't have, or what we don't understand, is that takes both parts. It takes the mother and the father. It's not only the father alone that's going to do this, it's the mother and the father. And so I think in that regard, we are um, unusually equipped to be able to handle what's coming, because we have our relationship with the father through our prayers, and then we have our relationship with the mother through the cleanses. And so we do have this, we're a house for both. And so you want to maintain that. Now, like I said, I do believe that there is an entity who has been feeding off of that, and who has really set it up to take advantage of that. I 100% believe that. But we can dodge the hijack. We can dodge the hijack. That's what it is. It's seeing the hijack and dodging the hijack, not letting it affect you. You know, like I said, it was no, you have to get the anger out. You can't hold it in. But then at the same time, you can dodge the hijacks. So if the hijack is you basically trying to convince me that prayer and fasting is bad, washes are bad, doing stuff with our family, our nation is bad, you got another thing coming. I'm not saying any of those things at all whatsoever. I'm not saying any of those things at all whatsoever. What I'm saying is that you're not going to use it. You're not going to pimp us out. Does it mean I won't fast? That's not what I'm saying. Of course I'm going to fast because it's not for them. They're just not going to pimp it out. You know. Matter of fact, I was just thinking about this. I probably keep my same fasting schedule and my same meditation schedule and my same everything. I'm not. I refuse to give up anything. I'm gonna have it all because my father said I could have it all, and my mother said I could have it all. So I'm gonna have it all. There's nothing you could do about that. But I'm not gonna let you harvest my energy or the energy or harvest the energy you as in whoever you are that's doing this. I'm not gonna let you harvest the energy of the brethren for your wickedness. So if that means I have to transmute that energy for our protection, so be it. And I can see why entities wouldn't want us to fast together. Our fasting together is extremely powerful. Very, very powerful. It reveals a lot, but what reveals more is your ability to know what is attempted and know that you're more powerful than that because we are. I hope any of this makes sense because so that was what I noticed and that was the warning, I think. And like I said, I hope that this makes sense because this is kind of um it seems kind of esoteric and all out there, but the fact of the matter is you again, we have to maintain our emotions for one. We have to um harvest the energy, harvest what's on the outside of us and bring it on the inside and then push it back out to harness what we want and let it be a reproductive circle, which means that we can't be an eye of Ra without having a God of men to reproduce that wisdom. The wisdom may come from us, but then we have to give it to a God of men to put it out there. We may be the daughters of Zion. We may be um the producers of wisdom. We may be the generators of wisdom, but um the men are the ones who project it. They're the projectors of that wisdom. Just like the solar flares. That's not the mother blasting out solar flares. That's not a female thing to blast out like that. That's a male thing to blast out like that. That's what Blue Pillar pointed out in his video. That's a male thing to blast out. We don't do that. We don't do that. So we have to know our role and know that we can't do this, what we're trying to do, without the support of our brothers, which is why so many of us are upset that our brothers are not supporting us the way that we need, but at the same time, we again have to understand that we can't go overboard with it either. We have to be able to walk the line. That's what we're supposed to learn. So if that is the test, the thing that we're supposed to learn, to be ready for, then we are ready for that. We're absolutely ready. I was under the assumption that the test was, were we spiritually strong enough to whatever, like did we have enough knowledge? Did we have enough this? Did we have enough that? Spiritually, we're not ready for that type of thing, like knowing enough, being enough where we are. But what we can do is fluctuate from, you know, being filled to being emptied. We are ready for that. I think we're ready for that. And if 2023 brings that energy of being filled and then emptying out and refilling and emptying out, then we can do it. We can do it, and I get the feeling that that's what that is, based on the directions of the conversation. So if you're a woman, if you're an Eye of Ra, if you're a daughter of Zion, you need to get you a God of men. You know, you need and the God of men, they be on some different stuff than we do, and that's fine. And you need to be able to fluctuate from one to one. You know, I've been doing a terrible job at that, horrible, because I've just been trying to deal with, the part that I can do, but I haven't been producing, like the way that I should, because I've been too busy trying to generate the energy that has to go out. So eventually, and I feel that push towards generation, next year, because I've been, like I said, I've been doing a terrible job at producing anything, just because I've been trying to absorb what's in my atmosphere, so much of it. I want to pour out as much as I've been able to absorb, and we're getting ready to get into that phase. That's the push that I feel. I know that's the direction that we're headed. So I don't want my sisters to get lost in the sauce. And again, this goes back to the thing I was saying the other day about the women being, so emotional about all this different stuff. I don't want, just like I don't want us to be emotional about all this different stuff. I don't want us to be so high and mighty, again, so pious and so religious that, you know, we just oh, we don't do that, oh, we don't do that. That's the type of stuff that got us in trouble in the first place. Sometimes you just go out and you celebrate the holiday, and you harvest it. You go with your intention to harvest the energy. You harvest the energy, and um you know you transmute it, instead of being, oh, I don't do that, and then having all the emotions around that. People, I don't want to say that. That's kind of, if you aren't able to harvest energy moving into the next age and transmute energy and take energy in and transmute it to something else, you're going to have a very difficult time. I don't want to say what I heard, and so I'm not, but I am going to strongly recommend that you deal with being able to find the good in situations, deal with the good while it's there, and in bad situations, deal with it accordingly, because the test is not going to be, who knows the most scriptures. The test is not going to be who knows um who knows the father best or who knows the mother best. The test is going to be who can navigate the hierarchy between the mother and the father. And so if you've not done any work to understand how the mother works, you can't navigate her hierarchy. There and if you haven't done any research to know how the father works, you can't navigate his hierarchy either. Because the one thing is, all once you know how to navigate the hierarchy on one side, you can navigate any hierarchy, because hierarchy is the way that it works. Once you know who brings you in the door, who's your host for that event, for your stay, then you'll know how to get to where you're trying to go. But if you refuse to acknowledge the mother, and reverence her and all of her might, and you refuse to acknowledge the father and reverence him in all of his might, then you're going to continue to be bound to the laws of the zodiac, the rules of the zodiac, until you are able to um, do both, and you will cause another 400 years of suffering for yourself. Because, like I said, I'm getting my inheritance. I'm getting my dowry. I'm going to be married. I'm going to be spiritually married. I'm going to enter the spiritual union. I'm getting my dowry. You know, I am. That's my top priority, because I don't want to be continue to be in slavery. And I've worked for it and I've earned it. And I'm going to get it. Just putting this information out, letting people understand that there is a path that puts you in the midst of both. We get it. So I am going to put, I'm getting out, and I do want to see everybody get out, but I know that they're not, because there's too many people, again, this is this is not it's not about eating meat. Like, it's just not. Like, I keep trying to tell people, it's not about eating meat. Eat whatever you want. It doesn't matter. What it's about is thinking that somebody is better than somebody else because of your diet. That has nothing to do with anything. It's not about celebrating holidays. It's about you thinking you're better than somebody else because you don't celebrate holidays. You know, it's not about any of the stuff that you think it's about. It's about you, your mental self of your position. Me, I told a line. I told a line. And so And like I said before, I have no problem with reconsidering my old positions and taking on new positions based on new information. How can you be somebody? I mean, this is the truth. How can you go out to a galaxy with infinite universes and infinite types of people, and you go to a planet, and on the planet, all they have is beef. They eat nothing but beef on this planet. What are you going to do when you get to that planet and you don't eat beef? What are you going to do? Or what if you get to a planet and every day is Christmas? What are you going to do? Every day is Christmas. The way that the consumerized version of Christmas in America. What are you going to do if every day is Christmas? How are you going to manage your emotions in that situation? Well, if on this planet you learned how to transmute that energy, go be around your friends and family, take the good part of it, transmute that energies for, to deal with the part that you don't particularly care for, you have no problem. Me, I can go anywhere. Like I've said this 1,000 times and I'll say it again. I can go amongst any group of people and observe their behavior for a little while, identify that behavior with a behavior that I feel that I recognize in my program, and jump right into how they are. So if I go amongst a group of white people, I know, okay, well, or like this is a perfect example. I went to South Carolina the other day, and this white lady, older white lady, she's like, "Oh, can I touch your sweater?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." I gave her my left hand because I'm no fool, ain't no dummy. I gave her my left hand. She touched my sweater. She's like, "Oh, that sweater is so nice and it's thick and it's warm." And I was like, "Yeah, I got it from Target." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, you got that from Target?" And I just sat there and chit chatted it up with her for a few minutes. It was no issue. They were talking about their kids and I mean, yeah, their kids and their grandkids and how everybody moved back in with them and this was their vacation and all. They was talking about all of that, and I was like, oh wow, oh my goodness, I can't believe that. Oh dear, I could empathize with her because she was kind of like teary eyed, and then like. She said her husband, he started talking in his sleep and it keeps her up and she wakes him up. I mean, she just, why? Because I had no problem with listening to her and giving her a little bit of comfort. Oh, that's terrible. Not that I said I was going to pray for her or anything like that. That's not what that is. It's just I gave her some empathy. I gave her an ear, somebody who she could talk to and complain to for a few minutes. It was no issue. It was no issue. And so this is what we have to do amongst our people. We have to be able to say, out amongst the people. The daughters of Zion can't be so pious that we think, oh, all we need is our uh tingling things and our mother is going to protect us and that's all we need. Who needs the father? Hey, I'm not saying that. Not I. Not I. This thing is we I personally am not going in that direction. I am not going in that direction at all, whatsoever. You can miss me with that because that is really how we got in trouble in the first place. We went overboard, and we always do overboard. Black women tend to go overboard, so I know we went overboard when we were ruling. We went overboard, and so if we have an opportunity to rule again, I'm not going to go overboard. Which is why I'm giving you this nice calm message to balance out the other one. Both messages are important, but we have to know that we can't go overboard. We can't go overboard because that's what we will naturally do. We'll just go overboard, and then next thing you know, we're gonna be right back into slavery. We're gonna get the temple back. They're gonna turn around and take it right back again because we went overboard. We went overboard. I don't want to have the Holy Spirit snatched from me because I went overboard. Because imagine this, the mother has been with us, but she haven't really been in us because we went overboard. And so she has to cautiously reveal her power back to us too because she knows how we are. Your mother know how you are. She knows. And so, since she knows how we are, we have to also prove to her that we can be responsible with the power that she gives us. Because obviously, in the past, we were irresponsible. We were, because if we weren't irresponsible in the past, they wouldn't have been able to do what they did to us. So we have to be honest about who we are. We didn't just wake up and start being like this black woman. We always been like this. And so we have to be very, very, and we also can't just let whoever run all over us and whatever. We have to do both. Literally, you have to get angry, you have to throw a fit, and then you have to turn around and say, but I'm not going to hold this against you forever. You have to go operational viral. Like I said, on yourself. I mean, that was a literal thing. You have to love yourself and know self enough to know when to get that anger out, get that rage out, and you have to know yourself enough to know when to bring it back in and calm it back down. And the faster that you can do that, the better it is for you. The more time it takes you to navigate through these two extremes, the worse it is for you. The interesting thing about meditation is that it looks like when you meditate, you're in one state, but technically, you're in multiple states at once. You're in a very expanded state and you're in a completely contracted state at the same time, which is why listening to your breath is very important because as you breathe in and you're expanding your lungs, that's your expanded state. And then as you breathe out, that's your contracted state. Being able to embody that. That's what you need to do. You can't be extreme on either end. You need to display both levels of extreme, but you can't be both levels of extreme at all times. And you can't be lukewarm where you take neither side. No, 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 I take that side. I for sure do. But I can also do that contracting where I release that and I take on another one. And so, the only way to get our mother's heart fully pumping again, because pumping is expand and contraction. We have to be able to expand and contract. And until we, daughters of Zion, are able to expand and contract, we're not going to be able to be of service to our mother the way that we would like. And so I implore the daughters of Zion, I implore my sisters to work on being both. Go ahead and explode, blow up, all of that, that's fine. Then you want to come back down and release all of that out. Don't blow up and hold on to it. You want to release it all out, you know. Don't just be the one who's all hot and no cold, or all cold and no hot. Go from hot to cold, hot to cold, hot to cold, hot to cold. Do both. Don't be so extreme that you can't do both. Again, that's why I said it's not about eating meat and it's not about celebrating holidays. It's being able to take on new information and do what you can with new information. And the people who have been able to do this, who have been listening to my messages and heeding my advice and going out and transmuting the energy of the Gentiles, you're going to be the one who gets the inheritance. The dowry is going to come to you, and the ones who refuse to learn the lessons of expansion and contraction from moment to moment, to live fully the fullness of life in each moment, you're going to be bound to the zodiac. And when you see that, some of us are not bound to the zodiac because we agreed, we finally learned how to do both, then you'll see. It's like, I'm not saying celebrate every holiday, but if you have not celebrated none of the holidays in the last month and a half, and you say, I'm not celebrating no New Year's Eve, our New Year's is in March, and then our New Year's is supposed to be in September with the fall equinox. So I don't even understand how you gonna, why nobody seems to understand if the Day of Atonement is in September, why would you end your year with the father? That's super disrespectful, in my opinion. Seem like to me you would start your year with the father. So the people who are over here on this channel, y'all already know. I told y'all September, get your plans together, get everything together. Why? Because our new year started in September. And then we followed up our new year with a fast at the beginning of our year. We didn't do no fast to close our year out. We did a fast at the beginning of our year. And so the motion you've seen up to this point has been us really swinging into our year. You know, by the time uh the spring equinox comes, we're gonna be at our highest. We're going to be at our highest peak because we're following the proper order of things. We have respect unto the hierarchy of the zodiac. We have respect unto the hierarchy of the zodiac, and therefore the hierarchy of the zodiac is going to have respect unto us. I'm starting to look at this tarot spiral a whole lot different because let me go and look at it. Because technically, this means that if our year starts with the fall equinox, we start with the Wheel of Fortune, which is 10, Michael in the Mist, which is 1. We start with the Wheel of Fortune, and then Justice, and then Hangman, and then the Death card, and then Judgment, and then the Devil. And then we have our Tower, and then we have the Star, the Moon, the Sun, Temperance, and the World before we get to the position of the Fool. So when you start at let me see, when you start at the winter solstice, if you start your year at the winter solstice, which I disagree with, you start with the Tower, you start with chaos. And when you start at spring equinox, you start as the Fool. And if you start at the summer solstice, you start as you're coming in as a person, a whole complete person without having any of the other experiences. The most the way to start your year that makes the most sense is to start with the Wheel of Fortune. To see, okay, what, but you're coming into that position of the Wheel of Fortune having done what you're supposed to do in September, the hermit mode. You go in, you think about what you want, you plan and all of that. You're going into your new year with planning. So technically it does make sense to fast in during Virgo season, which we were fasting during Virgo season because we did that 40-day fast that ended on the 9th, which was well into Virgo season. So we actually did our year. The mother and the father have been putting us on the right schedule. We just refuse to acknowledge it. We refuse to acknowledge it. So let's see. We started with the Wheel of Fortune and we saw justice being served. That was in Libra. And then we have the hangman, which is the emptying uh, of our wickedness, basically, um, and or the filling up of new, and then the death card, which is literal death of ourselves, dying on the cross, and then we came into judgment because I reordered the cards. Then we came into judgment, which is Sagittarius right now, which we were under judgment actually, and then you have the temptation of the devil. What was that? That was the temptation of were you going to celebrate s- Thanksgiving? Were you going to celebrate Christmas? Were you going to let um what is he called, the piousness, the piety, you're going to be so high and mighty that I can't celebrate those holidays, they're hella days, they're this, they're that. Okay, that's fine. That means the devil won. So as you came into your tower moment, which is getting ready to start at the beginning of this Capricorn season, which is now we're in Capricorn, you got to have your tower moment, which we see the last week was a tower moment. People were snowed in, it was cold, it was everything. It was very, very, uh, bad for some people. And for some people, it wasn't so bad. We hit our tower moment. So the next thing that's going to come up in the second half of Capricorn is our star moment, where you're going to have to, you're going to get the opportunity to shine, or you're going to, or like we did the shining star bath to reconnect with the star. I mean that came up. That's here on the chart. So doing the shining star bath at you know on the winter solstice, that's in this chart here. That makes sense. Then the next when we get into Aquarius, then we're going to have the moon and the sun together. And then we'll have temperance, which is the balance, and then we'll have the world, and then we'll come into spring equinox as the fool. But we're not going to come in as the fool with no experience this year because we started our year um, in September by doing our planning in September, you know? So, I mean, that's why you can celebrate your new year 4 times a year. It doesn't even matter because wherever you start your year, as long as you understand that you have to follow the rules of the zodiac, it doesn't matter when you start your year. What the Gentiles have done is they have ignored the rules of the zodiac. So, really, if you're going to celebrate New Year's, it should be at the winter solstice. It shouldn't be no January 1st. It has nothing to do with the winter solstice. You know, that's how it should be. But this is why you have to get on in order to get off the wheel, you have to get on it. And a lot of people refuse to get on the wheel. They think that they're better than the wheel. The wheel doesn't affect them. They don't have to go through the stages the way the wheel says. That's not how it works. As above, so below. If the wheel is the ruling mechanism for this planet, that means it's the ruling mechanism of the universe. So you can't get away from the wheel. You can't get away from understanding how the wheel works for you, which is why it's so wicked how they do it and all of that, but doesn't matter. If you understand the wheel, if you understand the zodiac and how the zodiac works, not, what the particularly the planetary positions are and all of that, that's fine, but you really have to understand how this thing works, how it's put together, and how you fit in it. So like me, I'm a Virgo, so I'm always going to have because I'm in this quadrant that's ruled by the cups, I'm always going to have a cups sort of influence, and my sun is actually in the first second. I think my son is in the third decan because I think I'm 25, something like that. So my son is in the third decan, which means I'm always going to be in this 8, 9, this 10 energy of cups. Um, and I'm going to be an ever evolving hermit from the page of cups, which is um the lower version of the King of Cups, because see, it's really the Queen of Cups. All the orders of the suits are the Queen and then the Knight and then the Page and the King. The Page isn't first because the technically the Page could be first, but with really the Page is the younger version of the King. The Knight is not the younger version of the King. The Page is the younger version of the King. So you start with the Queen, but well, the way that I have it set up, the page is the younger version of the king. So I put the page and the king together. I didn't put the king first. But if I was just looking at the suit, I would put the page first, and then the queen, and then the knight, and then the king. But understanding that the page is a younger version of the king. So I'm always going to be evolving from this, childlike version of this self to this royal version of myself, the kingly version of myself, you know, not the queen. So I'm not necessarily in that, queen energy of controlling the elements because I'm not that's not where I am. I'm in the kingly energy of being an innocent youth to a knowledge king, you know, in that 10 of cups energy, which is surrounded by family and friends and joy and trying to bring happiness. That's me and trying to find the balance because the X, I mean, 10 is a balanced number. It's equally balanced between male and female. It has a male part and a female part. That's what they would call androgynous, but it's the perfect balance of male and female. That's the energy that I'm in, and the ever evolving, um, ever the evolution of going from the page, the learner to the learned, and just bouncing back and forth between that. And once you understand where you really are in the zodiac and is in this spiral, then it will make sense to you. how things work. You cannot ever master or rule anybody else when you can't rule yourself. And you can't rule yourself if you don't know who yourself is. And you'll never know who you are if you don't understand the rules that you're operating under. And so that's why we're able to do this work the way that we are, because we can we got this thing in the right order. So obviously I got all that from my tarot spiral that I updated. So once I get a little bit more understanding on this thing, I'll do some videos about that. But I just wanted to put this information out here while it was up. And like I said, I have my tarot spiral in my room, so I'm always looking at it and pondering it, and really trying to figure out what's going on with this thing. And we really had a huge breakthrough just now with that. So I hope you guys, um, I know you didn't understand it because it's just a bunch of ramblings of a crazy person, but I hope you all found it interesting. And I know that moving forward, we'll be able to do these kind of things for people and really help them understand where they are. And start to make sense out of this life. Because again, if you can't subdue the earth, how are you going to be a creator? How can if you believe the Bible, like I always say, I believe the Bible, and He told us to be fruitful, multiply, and subdue the earth. If you don't understand the zodiac, you can't possibly subdue the earth. Everything follows the rules of the zodiac. The seasons follow the rules of the zodiac. The elements follow the rules of the zodiac. The angels follow the rules of the zodiac. The zodiac is the law. And if you don't understand how the law works, you can't possibly understand anything else, and you're just grasping at straws. That's why they don't want us to look at the sky. That's why they don't want us to look at tarot cards. So imagine once we have our tarot deck with this stuff laid out in a way that I'm describing it to you, I mean, how much more impactful is a tarot deck where you can say, okay, what's my problem? And really know what your problem is. You know what I mean? It's extremely impactful. So I hope that some of this stuff made sense. Some of this stuff that you're able to, work it out, and just, you know, don't hesitate to show your anger. But like, I think the script, the Jesus said, "In your anger, do not sin." Jesus went in, he turned over the tables in the temple, the money changer tables in the temple. He turned it over one time, and one time he went there, he didn't. I mean, it was what was happening. You have to be able to evaluate. I mean, Yahushua is a perfect. Oh my goodness, I'm so grateful for Yahushua, man. He set the example, and all we have to do is follow it. He balanced in between things so perfectly. He makes it look effortless. He made it look completely effortless, and we know that it wasn't effortless, but he made it look so effortless. Just balancing in between, like, all of these different sets of information, and just being able to manage it, and just making it look like it was just easy. It's beautiful, and that's what we have to do. We have to be able to do that, and we can't be so pious and so high and mighty on one side that we miss the drop on the other side. And so I implore my brothers, my sisters, my gods of men, and my I of Roz, I am in the daughters of Zion and the sons of man. I implore you to, um, you know, get on all sides of this. Get on all sides of this. Don't be lukewarm and have no response to everything. Respond to everything, and respond to everything big, and then come back down and say, but this is how we're going to handle it. Don't deny your ability to respond to things. Respond in the way that feels the best way for you, and then when it's time to come back down off of that, come back down. And don't be stressed out about it. But don't let anybody else stress you out about it. So, to the spirits who are here with us, you're invited to go in peace. To my beloved viewers, you're invited to be at peace. And always remember, the Most High is your peace. Shalom.